This is my conversation with David Gordon, artist, landscape designer, and owner of Bird Dog Arts Gallery in California's San Joaquin Valley. I probably should have edited out even more of our conversation about growing up in the 80s, but David is sharp and insightful. I couldn't help it. Listen for David's insights into vulnerability, both for artists and also for people who buy art, people who then express a lot about themselves through pieces they have chosen to put on display. Here's my conversation with David. Thank you, David. I really appreciate it. I just appreciate you taking time to speak with me.
Oh my gosh, yes. And anything that Craig wants me to do, I'll do.
Yeah. Should I tell Craig that? Should I let him know?
Yeah. I mean, really, people I respect, I take their cues seriously.
Does he represent him in your gallery?
Yes, I have about 135 California artists.
Wow.
Of all different types.
And that's only part of what you do.
It's the main one. Everything I've done has led to this in some way.
You have no idea how much I'm hanging on those words of everything that you've done has led to a thing, that sense that all comes together, the efforts and the energy. That's amazing. So I'm going to ask you to roll back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you about your work as a painter and as a landscape designer to start.
I've spent years in the nonprofit arts world and painting and doing landscape design at the same time. If that makes any difference. It wasn't I did one or the other. It was all happening at the same time.
Okay, that's helpful because for some reason I thought first you were an artist and then you moved into promoting the art of others, but it's all happening together.
Mm-hmm. I was painting outside of the nonprofit work. I was going to look at people's landscape projects before and after work. I was doing landscape designs early in the morning and then after I'd get home or on Saturdays it was all happening at the same time.
That's many hats to wear.
Yes. And each job that I had in nonprofits were many hats because there's no budget there. We did everything. I might be talking to $1 million donor at lunch and then I'm picking up dead kittens out in the garden at the museum. It doesn't matter. Or you're scrubbing toilets and then you're going on the news and doing a segment on Chagall. My husband, who was in banking forever, said, once a teller, always a teller. You just do it. Especially if you're going to ask someone else to do it. You better have done it before.
I love that. So just talk to me a little bit about your painting.
I knew I was a little bit creative growing up. My parents got a divorce when I was 14, going into high school, going from a class of 25 kids to a class of 1,000. So it was a big jump, but I couldn't wait because I knew that energy of a lot more was going to help me with the feelings that I had as a gay little boy, but not really, knowing what that means in the 80s. And my brother, who's only 2 years younger than me, he always knew what he wanted to do. He was drawing all the time. And, he has subsequently gone on and went to Cal Arts and is an animator and has done every movie you've probably ever heard of. And he's on The Simpsons right now. We get along famously. And we will go out and paint sometimes together, and it's not a competition or anything, and we just have a good time. But I didn't change my major to art until my second year of college. And it's only because I sat down and Stephen was drawing and I just copied something out of a magazine. And for the first time kind of took it seriously. And my mother, said, well, you can't do psychology for your major, which I just kind of picked out of the air. And she goes, you need to do art. And it's one thing about my parents. My dad had an oil field maintenance business. My mother was, they're both still alive. My mother was an operating room nurse, very respectable jobs, but they appreciated the creativity as an occupation from my brother and I, and they always encouraged us. And they just wanted us to be happy. They really didn't care. We could have said anything. But here you've got the older son going to San Diego State, and it's like, I'm going to do art. The younger son is going to go to Cal Arts and do art. Those can be precarious in the 80s. I ran into a lot of creative people that their parents took their paintbrushes out of their hands and said, you need to be a lawyer, you need to be a doctor. And they would look at me and go, I can't believe that your parents are just letting you do this. I go, yeah, I have no idea how I'm going to get a roof over my head, but they don't seem to be worrying about that.
I love that. That's
Yeah,
great.
and they've always been encouraging, as right wing and Trumpy as my dad is from Arkansas, which can't help it. He is so proud and loves the fact that his two sons are artists. I've always felt fortunate that I was in with two parents that supported us. There's probably a certain amount of neglect in there too. I was from the 80s. Half of it was, I don't care what you do. And the other half was, that sounds great. Yeah, go do it. Don't bother me a whole lot. But, the 80s, they didn't want to be bothered.
No, we're the generation of the latchkey kids. Just survive.
Right, because they're too scared to really know what you were doing before you opened and after you opened that door. Uh-huh. Yeah, I know. I look back and I go, oh my God, I have no idea how we're alive. None. None. When they have to have TV commercials in the 80s that have celebrities reminding your parents to, hey, where are your kids right now?
Exactly.
Uh-huh. And they were too busy bringing other people's kids into the house. You know what I mean? It's like, well, there's 6 of them now. If you lose one, you're still in A, that's 90%. Yeah, so when we left town, we didn't even ask anyone to feed our dogs. We just tipped over the can of dog food and let the water drip. You know what I mean? We didn't even do that. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So anyway,
Man.
so I went to San Diego State. I didn't know what I was going to do with my art. It's all prerequisite kind of stuff. So it's art history, it's sculpture, it's design, things like that. And I still didn't know much about painting. I took some sculpture classes, but I was in environmental design, which still don't ask me what that is. I have no idea what environmental design is. I have a degree in it. I had a mentor who subsequently died of AIDS because it was the 80s. And he asked me if I knew what I wanted to do. And I said, no, I have no idea. And he said, have you thought about landscape architecture? And I said, I have no idea what that is. And he goes, well, there's a program at Harvard, which is a summer school program, and you can pick 3 disciplines: landscape architecture, architecture, urban planning. And you can go for 6 weeks and see if you like it, but you have to apply. And so I said, okay. So I did that and I got accepted, and it was like graduate class level, staying up all night doing projects kind of things, serious critiques with serious architects and faculty member from Harvard and everything. And gloves were kind of off and you had to be thick skinned if you want to do it, which I really appreciated. I grew up out in the country. I like gardening. I love being outside and what the outside means. I finished up at San Diego State. I went back to Bakersfield, where I'm from, and worked out in the fields for about a year as I got my applications together and ended up at North Carolina State University School of Design. Before I left for graduate school, I started doing some painting, started doing pastel work, things like that. And then when I got to NC State, I took painting classes to help balance the really hard line design time. So, I'd be in the School of Design and then I'd cross the street and go to the fine arts and take painting classes. And that's what got me really interested and me hooked in painting. And it was always landscape. I'm not that interested in doing people or really even animals. And a lot of my paintings, they're very big sky, open space, alone. I'm not going to say lonely, it's alone places because that's where I grew up in the big San Joaquin Valley. And, we always had a horse. We always had an ATV, or a three-wheeler. And so I would ride to clear my head and go along the canal banks. I would go along the fields. I would go along to the eucalyptus trees. And I was almost like a farmer where I would just check on things, especially in the summer, every night, just like my grandfather did, probably both of them. I found and still do so much comfort in those kind of places. And they're usually dilapidated. They're beat up palm trees, they're canal weirs, they're dirt roads, they're trees falling apart, the stuff that we don't normally look at twice, but probably have found ourselves in. And that's what I like to paint. I'm trying to go a little further out now. The stuff that I'm painting, especially the buildings, all have graffiti on them. The graffiti has its own age on something that has its own age, which is older. And then these things are going to be gone here pretty soon too. Once the graffiti starts happening, which I really like, but it's a type of parasite. And I'm not saying it in a bad way, but like when a tree weakens, then other things attack it and start taking it down. And I think graffiti is a little bit like that. It's one of those things that attach itself and then it starts to erode and then something's going to come in and finish it off. I am beginning to capture those kind of things, off ramps and sheds and old concrete water towers and things like that didn't have graffiti growing up. And I'm like, oh, look at it now. This thing has come in and made its mark. And now I'm connecting with those graffiti artists around California. A few of them have seen my paintings and going, wow, that's really cool. Dude is one of them. He's pretty famous. And so is one that's called Germ. I found him in the Mojave Desert and a few other places. And so as I posted, they have found it. Someone has sent my paintings to them and go, dude, you're on the side of this shed on Interstate 5 on Copus Road. This guy's painted you.
Interesting because like you said, graffiti, maybe you look at it from the perspective of decay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also temporary because it can easily be painted over, except you're capturing it in a more permanent cut. So as soon as there's a painting of it, that gives graffiti a whole different life, right?
Yeah, and another interpretation. Uh-huh. And it's a challenge to paint because I have to figure out that script and the lines, and maybe there'll be 4 or 5 different artists that have imprinted on that wall. So I have to see it as, okay, those are lines just like a tree limb or a curve in a road or a canal bank. Because if I take it on that that's someone else's handwriting or creativity, then I'll get caught up of not getting it right. I have to really break it down to simplicity because I am going, okay, this particular person does more flame-like endings. This one has more swoops. This one grabs warm colors and goes into cool colors. And then do I want to include what they covered up? Like I like to untangle things. You know how there's people that like to find little chains or strings and it's soothing to kind of untangle something? It's a little bit like untangling something and then putting it back together.
Interesting. And the other thing that has kind of like stuck with me from what you said at the very beginning is that you paint things that are outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so they're not people, they're not animals, but they are things that are outside of you, outside of us. Except everything you're talking about now, what does that mean to you to paint something that has some sense of being outside? Because right now it's not feeling very outside. It's feeling very personal. And if I just went on a weird tangent, you can totally say, like, I have no idea what you're talking about, Sarah. And like, next question, please.
Oh, no. I'm thinking about that, how to say it, because I'm coming to terms with some of this. I have always been a really social person, friends and events. Half my job at the museum was renting out the museum. So I don't know, I had 110 events a year that the buck stopped with me, and that was only half my job. But there's a side to me that is very solitary. And so much of growing up in the country, I never felt lonely out there. I sought out those places, even on our own property, because we had a number of acres of being alone. And I love being alone. I love to travel alone. I love to go out and eat dinner alone. I have no trouble being alone. I just got back from my first backpacking trip and I went alone. Could not have been any happier. So in my paintings, I think it's expressing almost my happiest place. That solitary time recharges me. And with the gallery, I cannot deal with artists if I'm not an artist. I get gallery owners can do that to a degree, but I don't think the true empathy of what artists go through with the self-doubt, with the meeting of goals, with what it's like to be in the studio, what it's like to put something out there, which is, I believe, a commodity, just like anything else. I don't know how someone can to the degree without being an artist themselves. Have to have both sides. And I came to this gallery opportunity with being an artist, selling work, having shows, but also having the business side of it and business side of never having any money. I could pinch a penny three ways sideways and make it work. But that also comes with a lot of time and a lot of relationships and making time for people and being there when you don't want to and putting personal business aside. So my painting is very valuable to me because I don't have that property out there in the country anymore. So I have to find that satisfaction other ways. So if I have to put a 40-pound pack on me and go hike uphill to go look at a lake for 2 days, then that's what I have to do.
So tell me how Bird Dog Arts came to be.
Bird Dog Art sits on Tejon Ranch, which is the largest contiguous ranch in the nation. It's huge. There's like 6 ecosystems that all come together. Even at one point, there's a point where 4 ecosystems come together, like 4 corners in the United States, Colorado, Nevada, Utah, and Nevada, or what the fourth one.
Arizona.
And Arizona, yes.
Oh, that's a lucky guess.
And so they built an outlet out there, hour and a half from downtown Los Angeles. There's 2 guys, they're business partners, not partners, who find tenants for outlets. Well, one of them has something like Bird Dogs in Vermont. He has his own outlet and he was slowly turning it into local establishments like breweries, restaurants, things like that. And he turned a big space into an art gallery for Vermont artists and Vermont products because Vermont is small. So they came to Tejon and said, "Hey, have you thought about doing an art gallery?" And Tejon's like, "We have no idea what that means." So I had dealt with Tejon, through the arts, through the years, sponsoring things. So they knew me and they called me and said, "Hey, would you come to a meeting?" So I came to a meeting and they said, "These 2 guys want to do an arts gallery. What does that mean to you?" And I'm like, "Oh." So I just had all these ideas. You're here at the 5, which is the artery of California, and the 99. The entire world goes by there. From truck drivers, which I sell art to truck drivers all the time, which is really interesting. And people going to Yosemite, to Disneyland. I just sold an upcycled sculpture piece to a couple going back to Israel yesterday. They couldn't get the heaviest piece. And they talked about how they're going back to uncertainty. It's a difficult time. They said, "We hope Trump doesn't win." It's so interesting how all those things are connected in just a 10-minute talk. I could feel their trepidation and I was nervous. Like I didn't know exactly what to say as much as I think I know from the news, staring at someone who's going back to that. I am not going to pretend to know what they're going through or just listen. You know what I mean? So interesting what happens in a place like a gallery, especially this one that has so many different people represented. So Tone asked me, what do you know? And I gave him all this ideas. And so Peter and Andrew, the other partners, flew to California. Peter, in the middle of everyone, says, we can't do this. We're 3,000 miles away. We can write you a check as a consultant, or you can be a partner. Being an Aries and won't ask how deep it is before I jump, I was like, oh, yeah, sure. As 12 people are staring me in the eyes. I mean, I had a job. I was running an arts council, and I hadn't even told my husband or anything. I'm like, oh, sure. Yeah, that sounds great. I can do that. No idea if I can do it. Hadn't even seen the spaces. No idea. And they go, okay, you're on. That was how it happened. It was as simple and fast as that. Some regrets? Oh my God. Like you don't even know. It all sounds real glamorous until you do it. Oh yeah, I'm a gallery owner. You know how they put that in movies? They always have a gallery owner, especially like a little gay guy, always a gallery owner. And they come in this great outfit and they're just throwing around these words. And it is nothing like that. It is nothing like that, except the gay part.
Funny. I want to take you back to the comment about selling art to truck drivers
Uh-huh.
and selling art to the couple that was going back to Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Those two specific examples seem quite meaningful. Can you tell me, like, what do those experiences mean to you?
Well, I'll have to go back to the mission and vision of the gallery. I come from nonprofits and I come from, especially the Arts Council of Kern. My tenure there was about promoting artists and finding jobs for artists. And so when the gallery came around, and of course, we're not Gap or Banana Republic, we have no money. And so I had to take 3 separate units, and COVID put it on hold. I put my notice in. I had to get my job back. What I was going to do in a year and a half putting this together, it got condensed to 6 months. So I had to find a commercial contractor, which I've never done before, had to do a website, had to find artists, had to find someone that would put it all together like in some sort of register program, all of that in 6 months and open. My mission was to have a gallery that had attainably priced work so anyone can collect. It wasn't for the affluent. We have plenty of galleries in Park City, in Beverly Hills, in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, that have the $10,000, $12,000, $100,000 pieces. That is great. I want all my artists to go there. And then I know we have a lot of art associations and co-ops. I wanted to do something in the middle where people could walk in and know that they were included in the gallery. I've gone to places and I've seen the $12,000, $50,000 pieces, and I go, those are beautiful. I'm not included in this. My pocketbook isn't included in this place. My gallery has a few expensive pieces because I think that's also necessary that when someone picks up a $500 painting or a $1,200 painting, they've done it in a place that has a few $10,000 pieces. And so I have price points that relate to a group of people that might not feel that very often. So where I am have a lot of distribution centers. And so truck drivers and whoever they're traveling with, a lot of times it's their wife, their husband, the same sex, sometimes their family members, and they have time and they come in there and I've sold work and, it has to be a certain size and we have to pack it up because it's going back to Florida. I've gotten to know a few of them because they make that route and they go, what do you have new? And it's fascinating. And they're like, oh my gosh, my mother would love that chicken made out of forks and spark plugs because I have a welder that does the most amazing things, a retired welder who thought he would never move any of his stuff. That's another thing. The artists I have, a lot of them have never been in a gallery before. He's a retired pipe fitter from Bakersfield who is making the most amazing Mad Max roosters that I swear could drive a Jeep through Death Valley. They're so awesome. And I'm like, dude, and the prices are unreal. And that's what the couple from Israel bought a small little bicycle that he made out of forks and things because his brother was watching their dog in Israel and he was taking that back to him because he's a cyclist. Is that not the weirdest connection in the world?
It's amazing. I
And
love
probably
that.
didn't even know. And I imagine this artist, he might be red Republican because a lot of them are in Bakersfield. I'm related to him. But these connections are happening like that. And all of my artists have their photograph and a QR code that you can scan and learn about them. And every artist writes their own bio. I don't write it. I don't even edit it. I want it to be so raw from that person that you can tell if they know their way around the English language, however they want to express themselves. I'm like, that's on you. You do it. I'm not going to make it that it's the Bird Dog Arts brand. The Bird Dog Arts brand is you come as you are. And if you get past me, then it's all yours, you know?
David, I understand why I appreciate really very much that Craig asked you to talk to me because your energy and passion for just making art accessible from all artists to so many people it's amazing. I love that.
Another part of me believes without this level of art, the paintings on the wall, the ceramic pieces, the wire pieces, if someone doesn't collect on any level, a collection could be 3 pieces, they're missing out on another way to express themselves. So when someone's in front of a piece and they go, that is telling my story, and they take that home, it's an extension of themselves in a way that sometimes fashion is, sometimes furniture is. And oftentimes, have you ever been invited to someone's house for cocktails because they want to show you their new art piece? That happens. It does. And a lot of times it's someone who's never even collected before. And I tell you what, it's like heroin. You're not going back. You're going to ride the A horse instead of the H horse. You know what I mean? They'd be like, oh, I need another one because that is me right there. What else is me out there?
I was just going to ask you where you might see vulnerability as an artist, as a gallery owner, as a person who works with people. Yeah, where is it not? Where is it not?
And then I oftentimes have to talk to people and say, put that vulnerability away because it's a double-edged sword with art. I had a director at the museum who was not from the arts who used to look at us staff and go, well, you artists are too sensitive. There's a lot of society that sees artists as being very emotional, very temperamental, and I have to talk to artists and I go, that is true, but we have to balance on the business side if we're going to connect to people. And so sometimes we have to put that aside, save that for how you create. We'll bring that out. We're not going to lose your story, but we also have to be practical business people and relate to who we're selling. We have to market and allow us to bridge that gap from the artist to the purchaser who may never have purchased an art piece before, which is a vulnerable thing. They have to be vulnerable to let that art piece in. And not only that, if they decide to take it home, they have to put their vulnerability on display. And when people come in, they have to talk about it. What's that? Oh, isn't that your farm? Yeah. Well, where'd you find it? Well, this guy painted it and, here's where the tractor was. My grandfather used to come here. All of this welds up. So it's not just the artist being vulnerable. I'm asking the artist to keep that in check to a certain degree. And then I'm asking or allowing or finding a place or an object so that the buyer can let theirs go.
Learn more about David and his work on Instagram at David Gordon Dr. Signs and online at birddogarts.com. And keep an eye out for Turkey, the Bird Dog Arts Gallery cat. He has his own Instagram, #ISawTurkey.